Welcome back to the Eight Man Breakdowns podcast. This is where we discuss all phases of the game of football, including philosophy, play concepts, questions, and more. Joining me today is Coach Drew Smith. Coach Smith is the head football coach at Archie High School in Archie, Missouri. He's entering his 7th season at Archie and has 10 total years now of coaching experience. During his time leading the Whirlwinds, he's built one of the top programs in all of Missouri 8-man football, specifically highlighted by back-to-back undefeated state championship seasons in 2023 and in 2024. His program is known for its strong culture, high level of buy-in, and a physical, run-heavy offense built around the pin and pull. Well, Coach, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. I was excited when you asked me to pop on. I thought that was a really cool opportunity, and I'm happy to talk football anytime and enjoy some good conversation.
Just tell us a little about yourself first, your high school days, where you grew up, where you played, and then how you got into coaching football.
Yeah, so I grew up in Concordia, Missouri. It's about 45 minutes straight east of Kansas City. Grew up playing football there. Loved playing defense. I loved playing linebacker. Played offense, played wide receiver, but I really enjoyed playing defense. Football was actually probably my least favorite sport in high school. I really loved playing baseball. Got the opportunity to go play baseball in college. Didn't work out. Got injured. But that was perfectly fine because I was kind of done playing baseball anyways. Like everyone finds out, it's a different beast in college, and I was perfectly okay hanging it up. But so grew up there, and then I forgot that I actually got a few years after I graduated high school, I got the opportunity to be a volunteer assistant for my football team there, and I really got to experience coaching on a firsthand basis as a 20-year-old. And so I really enjoyed it. Always kind of kept it in the back of my mind that I loved being around the kids, loved being around the game, and loved the X's and O's into the game. But I was going to be getting into physical therapy. Find out I'm not smart enough to get into physical therapy school. So I got into something else, and then I got into teaching. And then that's kind of what brought me into coaching. When I found out I love being around the kids. I love being able to kind of influence them and just kind of lead them in a positive way, and just watching them mature and grow up as young adults. just because they're just trying to figure out how to live life and how to become adults. And I love being part of that process and being there to help them along the way. And I also love sports. And so that naturally carried into coaching, and then that's naturally kind of carried into teaching and being in the weight room. That's where I teach, is in the high school weights classroom. So that's just a little bit about myself. I guess just to say, I got into my first job was in Princeton, Missouri, where I spent about 3 years up there as an assistant coach. And then my wife wanted to move closer to Kansas City, where her family is. And so we moved down there, and I got a job at Archie, Missouri, which is about 40 minutes south of Kansas City, right on the Kansas-Missouri border. And I've been here ever since. I love it. Wouldn't want to be anywhere else. So that's just a little bit about me and how I got where I am.
So first, backing up a little bit, Concordia, when you were in high school, remind me, what year did you graduate high school?
I graduated in 2011.
2011, okay. So about the same age as me, essentially. Anyway, Concordia, were they 11-man or 8-man when you were in high school?
We were 11.
Okay. And recently then, have they made that? I mean, I know they changed 8-man because I saw the coach speak there, 8-man wise. Was that a long time or?
In the past 4 years, they dropped down.
So number wise,
I think they dropped down in 2021 or 2022.
So you guys probably were one of the smaller class 11-man schools then when you were going through?
Yes, and we had some pretty good teams. We made it to back-to-back semifinal rounds. Lost to a powerhouse private Catholic school. Love that. So,
Well, being in the Kansas City area, everybody in Kansas talks about Bishop Miege because the same way
yeah.
they hold that enrollment to be at that certain level. So that's interesting. You said Princeton too. Princeton, I'm trying to think. I swear I've been through that area because my wife's family, they have a lake house in Unionville, Missouri.
Oh yeah, and you drive right through it.
Okay, so perfect. Yeah, I have been through there then. I thought so. I recognized at least the name anyway. And I don't know that we ever stopped there, but
There's nothing. There's only a Casey's, and so uh, that's about it.
yeah, okay. So they and that wasn't an 11-man school though when you were there, or they were 11 man.
Well, they were 11 man, and then they dropped down in 23, I think. Coming down to Archie, that was the first time I'd ever seen an 8 man football game or even or anything. So,
Mhm. And now going on 7 years there.
yeah.
So then Missouri, I feel like I don't know all the Missouri 8-man, what it entails and all that. I've obviously seen many Missouri guys speak now in the last couple of years, but would you say it's growing then? It's getting pretty big there in Missouri or
Oh yeah, it's probably doubled in size in the last 4 or 5 years. Honestly, since once COVID hit, um, there was a weird shift right when COVID hit. I don't know why, but there was just like 20 teams that dropped down. And so we're sitting, and then it's been ever since slowly been building. So we're right about 48 right now, but it's definitely growing. And the state of Missouri is not very happy about it. Misha, our athletic association, we call it Misha, is not very happy, and so they actually had a special meeting and they had all the coaches in, and they're trying to figure out why are people dropping, and they were getting really worried about it. So they don't want to grow, which is
uh,
kind of weird.
yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, I would say, I mean, I grew up in Kansas. Obviously, all I knew was 8-man because, really small town and we were always 8-man, ever since I was a kid growing up and then played 8-man. And other than playing JUCO for a little over a year, I never experienced 11-man other than watching it and learning it myself. But yeah, Kansas, it's huge. We had at least 48 in each division every year that I was in high school, Division One and Division Two. And there was the enrollment cutoff line that, there was many 11-man teams that struggled with numbers, but they were forced to stay 11 man. And so that was kind of the thing that now it's the enrollment numbers are fluctuating all the time. And now there's 6-man and, there's, nearly 100 8-man teams and there's 30 some 6-man teams. And then Nebraska, it's insane now being here. There's three 8-man divisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next year will be the first year of three divisions. So it's essentially like right around 35-ish per division. Like in Division One, I think we have 35. Division two is gonna be 32 exactly, and Division three is like the leftover after that, it's like 36 or 37. And because there's so many in Nebraska that do what you're talking about, where they're dropping down, but Nebraska has that enrollment cutoff. So if you are below the cutoff, you're ineligible for the playoffs. But you see that all the time. There's so many teams that their enrollment is higher than their actual football participation. So rather than play up a class and get dominated or have to forfeit games due to numbers, they're playing down to 8-man to compete, and they're not worried about the playoffs because they just want to be able to play football.
Crazy.
But yeah, it's a great thing. I think that Nebraska is, again, I've only been here 2 years, but I feel like they're doing it the right way. And then the playoff system is awesome. There is, I say that, I mean that's my opinion. In Kansas, you're always limited east to west, and so coming from our northeast area, the top East teams were always meeting each other in the semis, and oftentimes that was deciding who won state, and like when I
Yeah.
and anyways, then here in Nebraska though there is no East West. So everything's seeded and reseeded throughout the playoffs. And so like we had to
Yeah,
travel.
we need to move to something like that because I don't think I think there's in the last probably 5 state championships, there's been one true state championship game, and that was probably the 23 season. After that, it's been like the winner's been decided in the semifinal round or the quarterfinal round
Mhm.
of the playoffs. And that's kind of sad, but they always say it's all about travel and
Yep.
money, and they don't want to fight that. But
Yep, that's exactly what Kansas says all the time too, and and realistically, like Nebraska, the way they do it though, like there's teams that are traveling 8 hours all the way out to the Panhandle for a playoff game, or vice versa. The Panhandle people are driving, all the way out here because we had a team drive 5 hours to us, and then we had to drive 4.5 hours for our second round game all the way up 5 miles, whatever it was, away from South Dakota border, and but like at that point, it's the playoffs. Who cares? The coaches don't care, the fans don't care. They're gonna come travel and watch. If you're still playing, you earn the right to keep playing,
Yep.
like, and it's just like when they argue that, like, well, what about state basketball? Everybody travels for
Exactly.
state basketball. It's all the way across the state, or at least for us it is. I don't know about.
No, and they've started to move towards so I used to coach basketball and we had to go 2.5 hours away for our sectional basketball game. And I'm like, there's no difference. And you know what? We had a packed gym. People will travel.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, in football, you're going for one game on a Friday night or potentially a Saturday. And whereas basketball, if you win, you might be going back the next day, or whatever it is. So, or, days later. But anyway, sorry, I'm dragging on here talking about asking you about Missouri 8-man, and I know you're still relatively new to it, but it's still really interesting to hear about how the landscape is for it. Maybe talk a little bit more about, playing defense and your love of defense in high school. How did that transition into offensive coordinator and how you see defenses now as a coach?
yeah. So growing up and playing defense, especially at the high school level, I really understood of watching film of always seeing tendencies of like, okay, well, there's always, and when they're in this formation, these are their top plays. And then when I'm on this side of the ball, I really only I'm only responsible for stopping these type of plays on this side of the ball. And so I was really kind of cerebral about understanding that aspect of it and then seeing how defenses affected things. And so that really kind of opened me up to the offensive side of understanding, okay, well, I have to make sure I'm not one dimensional on a formations. I have to make sure that I'm attacking different sides of the ball. But then also, I just got to make sure I got to put certain people in bad positions. And I know as a linebacker, I hated being one on one in the option game or speed option or anything like that, or being attacked laterally. And so that's what I like to try to do. I like to try to take advantage of certain situations and putting people in binds. And so that's a little bit of how I've kind of it influenced me. But really, a lot of it came from being the defensive coordinator uh, and helping out on the defense up in Princeton was just seeing how everything aligned and everything matched up and meshed, and how if I move one person over here, how it changes up everything, and how it can motions can really mess with people and cause a lot of communication issues because it messed with us and it put a lot of pressure on the defense. And so I just always kind of kept that in the back of my mind. And just said, I love motioning and I just love being able to move people around a little bit and just seeing how they react to it.
And then obviously an 8-man motion can tell you pretty much everything. Not that it can't an 11-man, but at least here in Nebraska, we see a lot of man to man. So
Yeah.
how is it, coverage wise in Missouri?
I think it kind of depends on if you're on the north or south side of the state. We see a little bit more man down here in the south, but then when you get up more north, I think you kind of see a little bit more zone. But I really do think it kind of depends on where you're at. So we're about fit. We see probably about maybe a little bit more man than zone, but we see enough zone that we have to work it. And zone's kind of working its way down south a little bit as teams adapt to playing 8-man football. So, but I just love being able to move things around. And if you don't move at all and adjust, I'm like, man, I got numbers to run the ball now. And then if you do move and you bump over, or if you trail, you take and follow someone over, I'm like, okay, well, I can come back and run this way or run crossing, or I know you're in man. So I love being able to be flexible in the offensive end and move people around. So
And then defensively wise, what's the norm? Like, what would be a normal basic defense that you're going to see, on an average 8-man football game night there in Missouri? What's a
I think
common
the
defense?
normal average is a 3-3 is what I normally see. We don't ever really see high safeties. If we do, it's a rarity. Like maybe I'll probably face maybe 1 to 2 teams next year that play with a high safety, like a 3-2-1, 3-2-3. Um, so mainly I see a 3-3.
In Nebraska, I would say it's most likely a 3-2, probably more so call it like a 3-4 because the corners will be rolled up almost like
Yeah.
additional linebackers. But Kansas, yeah, 3-2 is definitely the common. Here, you still see some I formation. You don't see a ton of spread, but I would say spread is a little more common now, obviously, than it used to be. Here, let me go into my number two question. Otherwise, I'll keep dragging. Outside of your athletes, and I know you talked about that at the clinic, what would you say has been the most impactful trait that's led to team success for you at Archie?
I would say that the buy-in to our weight room program, the kids have really kind of bought into, hey, we need to get into the weight room and we need to work on our athleticism. And so I think that is something that's really impacted us, of just being physically mature, of being strong, being athletic, being able to move, and being consistent year in year out. It's not something that before I got there they never did summer weights. Lifting during football season wasn't mandatory. You didn't have to take a weight class. It was nice if you did, but it wasn't like expected. And so I kind of fought that when I first got at Archie. But I had a really good freshman class that was really loaded with talent, and they were hungry. And so they really kind of set the tone of like, hey, this is the expectation. And then also getting those eighth graders and seventh graders into the weight room of learning form, learning the basic fundamental movements, and building that those foundational blocks so that when they get into high school, that we can build off of it now instead of waiting until high school and then starting from there. So something that they did was we started morning weights, and if you were in eighth grade and you were playing high school football, you were expected to be there every day. We do it 3 days a week. And so every day we had morning weights, you were expected to be there. And so I'm struggling with that a little bit right now, just with these new, I would say, complacency. Us being good the last 5 or 6 years, these eighth graders and have been like, kind of like they expect to be good. And so I'm kind of fighting that a little bit, but I'm kind of I'm sure we'll talk about it here in a little bit of like what I'm trying to do to fight that. But I would say that would be the most impactful trait for our team has been the buy-in to the weight room.
I mean, obviously, you getting to run that and seeing it firsthand, and so speak about that a little bit of what is it that you guys are doing in the weight room? Like, what's your program, your system? What are you guys doing in there? Obviously, like you already hit on the junior high foundational blocks of learning the movements and then working up to that more into high school. But what are you doing in the high school weight room as a system?
So I kind of have some different blocks. One I do is it's called the Power Matrix series, where we do it's if we just really want to focus on getting strong, we'll just do bench squat clean. That's all we do, 3 days a week, and it's I think it starts off with like 75%, and then you work up to, and then you end up doing like 95%. But you're gonna get strong. And I really like to do that kind of with my younger kids, not really younger, but like my freshmen, sophomores, just to get that foundational strength aspect. And then I really kind of move into more of an aspect of I call it's called APRE. I don't remember what it stands for, but what it's based off is that you have a range. Okay, our target is it's all that. So for instance, let's say we're going to go off of 6 reps. Okay, so your target is 6 reps, and then if you hit 6 reps, then you're in column that 6 rep column. And so then the next set you do is 4, and then the next one is 2, and then you don't move up in weight the next week. But if our goal is 6, and then you hit 7, because we give a range of, if we're going for 6, we give a range of 8 to 4 based off how you're feeling that week. Because multiple athletes, there's some weeks they're sore, there's some weeks they're feeling great. So if you're feeling great and you can hit 75% for 8 reps, go for it. And then that in those next 3 reps, those next 3 sets, you're going to go 8, 6, 4, and then the next week you get to add 10 pounds onto your 75%. So now, if for instance, let's say Johnny is benching 185 at 75%, he does 8 reps. Okay. Next week, I keep track of on my Excel sheet. He did 8 reps, so he's moving up 10 pounds. Next week, he's going to do 195, and now he's on that. And then let's say he's really sore that week, and he only gets 5 reps. He goes down 5 pounds the next week. So then the next week, he's down to 190, and then it kind of goes from there. Something I've been pairing with it is we have some VBT sensors, and so now I'm worried about bar speed. We got to the point where we're overall pretty strong, And so now I'm worried about power. Okay, how fast can we move this? And so been doing some research into it and a lot of podcasts and reading and I want to be powerful with our movements and see how fast we can move people, because I think that really translates to the football field. And so now we're doing the same concept of the APRE. Okay, our goal is 6 reps. If you hit 8, you're going up 10 pounds. But now when you do that, off of those 8 reps, how many of those are above 0.5 on the meters per second? Oh, you got 6 above 0.5? Okay, great. You're moving up. Oh, you only got 4? Okay, well, that's where you are on that chart then. And so now we're emphasizing every rep has to be as explosive and as powerful, because I mean, you see kids in the weight room that they're like, okay, well, I'm just going through the motions and I got those reps. But now we're working on the mindset of every rep needs to be explosive. Every rep needs to be the best you can to get that number as high as you can. I love it for squat. I really some coaches aren't big on it for Olympic lifts, but I really like it for hang clean. For instance, we use 2.0 meters a second. If you can get that hang clean bar moving above 2.0 for 2.0 or above for 6 reps, you get to move up in weight next week. And that really gets to show us on our iPad of when they see the number. When I give them a teaching cue and they start to pull with their elbows more, or they shrug more, or they get that they get to use their legs and get that knee bounce. They can visually see the improvement of how fast that bar moves and makes it feel easier. And so they can visually see how that's impacting their lift. And then it's able to build healthy habits that way. And they can see that they're more powerful that way. And so I really like it for the hang clean, especially for squat, of exploding and getting your hips, driving your hips back underneath you. And so we've been kind of pairing that with that's a really long answer, but that's kind of what we've been doing the last year is pairing that, and I've seen a lot of good stuff from it.
I can't say that I know what APRE means either, but like just the chart system, you have a system in place, progressive, where okay, you're not hitting this, so we're gonna back off, or you are hitting this, so we're gonna add on and we're gonna adjust. I mean, that's a simple, way to do it. And then now obviously using the technology to help it and the instant feedback that the kids get. I mean, that's just awesome stuff. I've never used one of those, but I've talked to many coaches that have and just hear really, really good stuff.
So APRE, I just looked it up because I can never remember what it stands for. Is Auto Regulatory Progressive Resistance Exercise. Kind of
Yeah.
long term, but
Yeah, there's a reason nobody remembers the too long.
yeah, because my degree is in exercise science, but it's one of the things I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's good stuff. I love that. And then remind me, you said that you guys are also testing speed and stuff like that as well?
Yeah, so we use the OVR sensors for doing speed. I love it. It can measure 5, 10, 5, flying tens. It'll give us miles per hour. It'll do 40s. So we test probably 1 to 2 times a week on our speed. Either it's flying tens. We're not near our track, so we rely on our, like, we have not a street but a longer road on our by our school that we use for our 40s. So in the wintertime, we don't run any 40s. We just stick to flying tens or something similar, or our starts. So, but yeah, that's what we do for our speed.
Okay, yeah. When I was doing all this, I was doing very similar stuff. I don't do that anymore, so I won't talk about that. But yeah, that's really good stuff. The overall buy-in, which goes right into the next question, anyways. But I ask everybody this, it's always good to hear just the differences, and sometimes there isn't that much different, but sometimes there is. But what do you guys do different? What separates you guys from others?
Yeah, I would say the overall buy-in of just kind of knowing that it's an expectation that you're going to be at summer weights. I no longer, when I first got at Archie, I probably had 15 kids come up to me and say, "Hey, I can't come to summer weights this year. I've got to do work. I got to go to work." I'm like, "Oh, you got to be at work at 6 a.m. in the morning?" "Yeah, coach, boss wants me there at 5:30. I'm like, "No, he doesn't." And I'm like, and so now I've gotten to the point where I might have 1 or 2 kids come to me and say, Like I've only had one kid this year say, "Hey, I won't be able to make it to summer weights. I've got to go to work." And then I just say, "No, you're coming to weights." Like I said, I'm like many kids have told me this, and they always find a way. I'm like, I just tell your boss you're going to be an hour later, and tell him that you're coming to summer weights, and he will understand. If he doesn't understand, you probably need to find a new boss because you're a high school kid. And every single time they come back to me and say, "Hey, I talked to my boss. He has no problem with it. I'll be there." And so I think that is something that is really kind of separates our program is that we buy in, we bought into. It's important to lift year round. It's not just a few months out of the year, or it's not just during football season. It's all year.
You've already hit on that. You know, your players want to be invested and be good, and obviously the results have shown. What would you say? And then that is my next question. I know you hit on it earlier that we were going to talk about it because when you have that consistent success, you know, complacency can show up. But what goes into it? How do you build them up and also reach that level of buy-in and keep them there? What are you doing for that, coach?
I kind of give them the expectation of, "Hey guys, we're in Missouri. Everyone kind of expects us to be good in football. Like we kind of now set the tone of anytime you play Archie, we expect them to be one of the top teams in the state." And so I kind of remind them of that, and that kind of fuels them a little bit of, "Oh yeah, oh we got to work hard because everyone thinks we're going to be good." But then I also just talk about having some pride. Well, guys, guess what? We just lost 5 all-state players. Are we going to be as good? And I just challenge them a little bit. But I really kind of implement. I'm really big on we then me. Of we got to put in the work for what's best for the team, and understand that it's going to take a little bit maybe extra work to get a little bit better. We also have a G bed, which I stole from someone about 10 years ago. Get better every day, and so we'll talk. I'll just remind them, "Hey, G bed, what are we doing today?" If the kid's not having a great day, I'll be like, "Hey, I know your day is kind of sucks right now, but let's find a way to make it the best we can today. That's not going to be your best overall day, but let's make it the best you can today." And so just kind of flipping their mindset a little bit of just showing them that even if we have bad days, we have the power to make it as not as bad of a day of what it is. And so just getting them to understand that and just know that also just we're kind of reminding them about these skills aren't, I don't care about not just going into football. Like I want you guys to succeed in everything you do. If you're a great basketball player, I want football to help you succeed in the basketball field. Or if you're in baseball, I want football to be able to help you some way into baseball. I want football to be able to help set you up for your job or whatever. And so just kind of understanding them that I care about them and that it's more than just football for me. And I really kind of think that does help build a level of trust. And then when I have that level of trust, I can kind of reach in and just ask for them to give a little bit more buy-in to the football program.
Reminds me of that quote. I think it was Teddy Roosevelt. I can't remember, but they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So
Yeah, I don't know who said that, but I love that
I
quote.
think
Yeah,
it's Teddy Roosevelt. I could be wrong.
it's so true though.
Yeah, once you've built that trust, I mean, most oftentimes those guys are going to do what you ask of them, you know, and obviously you built the trust. You made it a place that kids want to be a part of early on. You've had some success. It's carried over. Would you say, I know you talked a little bit about this as far as culture wise at the clinic. What were some bigger changes that you made? You want to talk about some of those, some of the changes you made when you went into the new program at Archie?
I really wanted to instill a sense of pride into our program. So the first thing I did when I took over there was our logo. It's a unique logo. It's a tornado. It's a whirlwind. But it was just like a clip art. It was like a cartoon logo. I'm like, man, this could be so much better. So I got with some got buddies and some guys and like, hey, got some mock-ups of some different logos that we could use for the football team, and I got them approved by the administration of the school, and then I let our seniors pick. I'm like, hey, this is what our football team is going to be about, a new identity in a sense, a new fresh start. I'm like, so I set the ones out that I approved, that the administration approved, and so I still had some say into it, but then also I let them have some say into it of, okay, what are we going to be about? And so give them a sense of pride. And then we went into the our locker room, painted it, Okay, it doesn't have to be just because we don't have a lot doesn't mean we don't have any pride in it. We painted it, and now every year we paint the floor. Just to give it a freshness of, a brand new start in a sense. And I talked to him about like every day we clean our locker room before we leave the football field. Mondays it's seniors, Tuesdays juniors, Wednesdays sophomores, Thursdays freshmen. And so that way they see that everyone is helping clean and everyone's in part of it. And so no, it's not just the freshmen cleaning every day, but everyone. And so, and we share it. It kind of stinks because we share that locker room with other sports and it looks its best during football season because we clean it every day. And I was hoping that the same football players that play basketball, play baseball would help keep it clean. But obviously that's not the case because no other coach keeps them accountable. But I was hoping that they would do that themselves, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. Um, and then I just really kind of went in and taught about like this team first mindset of like it's we then me. Okay, guys, if we are good and we get far into the playoffs, that gives you guys that much more of an opportunity to get that first team all state, to get that that first team all conference, whatever it is that you're going for, award. It doesn't always really matter, unfortunately. You know how it goes. Just because you might be a stud on a bad team doesn't always mean you're going to get the accolades you want. And so that's something that really has kind of and we've proved it. The last few years, we've had the offensive most valuable player in the state of Missouri in 8-man football the last 3 years. Not one of those 3 years did they lead the category in passing yards, rushing yards, or most touchdowns. They were up in the top 4 or top 3 in all of those categories, but they didn't lead in any single one. And I had the defensive MVP of the year a couple of years ago. He didn't lead in sacks, tackles for losses. He was a stud and deservingly so was the best player in the state, but he didn't lead in any categories. And so I used those examples to those kids, and they've really kind of bought into the aspect of, hey, we don't care about our stats. We got the win. That's all that's important. And so that's something that they've really kind of developed and bought into is like, what's best for the team. And so that we've really kind of bought into that.
The sacrificial role of putting the team first and then the servant leadership. It doesn't matter how old you are, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, we're going to clean the room. We're going to or clean our room, clean our locker room, not our room. I mean, they should clean their rooms too, but but yeah, so and the attention to detail of just cleaning the locker room, that reminds me of another really strong quote. I forget, famous quote. I forget who says it too, but like make your bed every day, right when you get out of bed.
Oh yeah, there's a book about that. I read that book, but that's kind of where I got it from too. It's like take care of the little things
Yeah,
first.
exactly. And so if you're that detailed in the minor details, then that's just going to go all that further with everything else you do, and then you're setting yourself up for success later on. And so that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I try to implement a similar. We have a consequence essentially if our locker room's not clean. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I should be more specific of designating, hey, I'm going to help you guys clean up if I need to, but it's this group is doing it today. We're seniors, we're going to do it because who cares who does it? Because that's the issue at sometimes in the past. And even when I came here, not to say that the previous coach did anything wrong, but it was definitely not a servant leadership approach because seniors essentially just expected to be captains and essentially they expected to oh, that's freshman's job, picking stuff
Yep.
up at practice and all that. It's like, no, we've done the opposite. We've been saying, nope, it does not matter. And I've even intentionally said, hey, seniors, we're going to stick around and put stuff away, and we got turf field, so it's not like we have to get all that out. We literally, everything is right there. Press box, we have a little storage area underneath, so it's not like it's hard or anything. But they grew up in the program that it was a freshman's job, and they were those freshmen. And so when they got there, they just assumed, well, that's the way it's going to be. And no,
Yep.
we've changed that. So, but anyway, no, that's awesome stuff. And then repainting the locker room floor, taking it serious. And then I know you talked about the fat head and the wall of fame type stuff too. And that's which I know you didn't talk about that now, but we can go into that a little bit more later if you want to. But let's move on here to down. I'm finally down to about number 4 and 5. So let's talk about that leadership. Have you started your leadership classes? And if you have, or if you're on the, in the process of doing that,
I'm in the process of getting it started.
okay. So what do you think that's going to look like, day wise? How many kids you think you'll have in book type? Anything figured out yet?
So I'm gonna get it started probably in the summertime. Of just like probably honestly once every other week. I'm not gonna make it anything major. I'm just gonna keep it to 5 to 10 minutes. I keep it short because I know they got some things to do. I don't want it. It's not like a class session. I want to keep it nice, short, and sweet. A core principle of what a leader does, and give some examples, and maybe talk about it a little bit, and then leave it for them to maybe just be in the back of their brain, kind of chew on a little bit throughout the day or something like that, and just to think about. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Hmm.
It's probably 2 times a month. I'm expecting probably 5 to 10 kids to show up. I mean, I might have a little bit more the first time, but I don't know. I'm hoping that I have a lot, especially as we get closer to maybe I can get it started in during summer weights of just right after weights. I'm like, hey, we got a leadership class. If you want to stick around, so I talked about that accountability board. I'll say, hey, this is worth 5 points on our accountability board, and then just get kids to go into it, and then carry it over into the school year. And then I'll say, hey, Thursday or something like that. I'll say, hey, don't forget tomorrow we have leadership training at 7:35. Okay, that's 10 minutes before they need to get there, or 7:40, something like that. 5 to 10 minutes, quick lesson, quick thought, read it, quote, maybe ask them what they think about it, give some examples, short video clip, get them in and get them out. Because I don't need to kill them, because not all of them have aspirations of being a football coach or high up on a leadership board, but we all need to have a little bit of leadership qualities of knowing how to treat people right, knowing how to be that servant leader, knowing how to be responsible, what it looks like to put others before yourself. So I think everyone needs to have some of that. So hopefully it turns out well, and I'm excited about it. I really am. I'm going to be basing it off of Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink
Hmm.
and John Gordon. Sorry, I just blanked on his name. John Gordon with the positive energy bus. So those are going to be my baseline fundamentals of what is worth around, and just kind of go from there.
I was telling my defensive coordinator a little bit about my ideas. I had my football team meeting, interest meeting, and we had 41 kids there. So, but anyways, my junior quarterback this year, he's going to be a senior next year. He'll be a 3-year starter for the 3 years that I've been here. He came to me, I don't know, a week or two ago, basically. He sent me this long email, and then we got to talking and meeting, and he wants to do this. He just, I don't know where, if he saw a video or something, but he talked to a buddy of his that goes to another school that did something like it, but he wanted to start this team leadership program essentially. And I'm all for it. I've come up with some ideas to add to it. So what we're essentially going to do is stealing your idea of a class, but it's going to be, we're going to essentially vote on, the seniors will be captains. I will have senior captains still because they are leaders. But they got to be servant leaders too, like you said. I mean, putting the team first, not, you're not just a senior to be a senior and you're better than everybody, anyway. But we'll have team leaders within every class, freshman, sophomore, junior, and then obviously senior, where I'm going to let the team, everybody's going to vote on top three nominations per grade level of essentially who do you trust the most? If situations were tough or through any situation, who do you trust the most in this class that's on our football team? This class, this class, this class. And then I'm going to designate those coaches are going to vote too. So I mean, I'm not going to rig it, but there'll be some coaching persuasion in there. But anyway, so I'm going to have at least 2 leaders per class, and then we're going to do a similar thing like, hey, 5 minutes after practice, you guys meet, talk, and it's gonna go right into the accountability board type thing. Like, because again, it's a lonely thing to be a leader, to hold others accountable when, especially if it's the popular kid or people everybody likes and they're doing, it's easy to follow those type of kids, even if they're not doing the right thing. So this will be another way that we can add that accountability within our team. And so,
I like that.
but yeah,
I'm intrigued to see how that goes for you.
yeah,
Uh,
me
so
too.
you're having your captains, and then one representative from each grade level.
At least one, if not two. We'll
Okay.
see. I'm not fully decided on this, but again, my quarterback essentially just said, Coach, I'd like to He's big in FCA, and me and him have had many conversations, stuff like that. And he's a pretty strong leader. He's still got to work on becoming more vocal himself. But yeah, I love the idea, and so I kind of experimented with it. I think, and that's the direction I'm going.
Awesome.
So, but yeah, we'll see. I hope it works great. Obviously in theory it sounds awesome. So if you wouldn't mind, obviously not everybody that listens to the podcast knows about Archie, Missouri. But if you wouldn't mind just sharing about offense, what you do offensively, your identity, like your must-haves, and how you fit to your players and all that stuff. So anything you wouldn't mind sharing offensively.
So I started off as a wing T guy. Um, when I first moved down to Archie, we had some big linemen, and we weren't super athletic. And so I really loved the wing T, loved the misdirection that came out of it. Just kind of wanted to ground and pound. Those linemen graduated. It was really kind of tough to open holes, and so, but we had a lot of athletes coming up in the space. So we kind of evolved into more of this kind of pin and pull system. Um, to always get the edge and space it out. So our identity is I've kind of moved a little bit from it, but what our identity really is I want to give the illusion or have the ability to make you think about I can go 4 vertical deep on you at any time in the ball game, any formation, anytime. I want you guys to stress that we can send 4 people out on passing routes. If you play me, you know that I probably run the ball 80% of the time, 85% of the time in the game. But you need to be able to be accountable for if all 4 of those guys go off for a route. And so that is a big identity for me whenever I build formations, whenever I build shifts, anything. Another thing is that every single formation that we have, there is either a tight end or a wing attached to the line of scrimmage at everything we do. That just goes to the pin and pull concept. I never ask my guards to create that edge on and pin in or hook block the hook the D end, and so I leave that out to my tight ends and my wing backs, and that's it. That's a staple in my offense. And so we probably have about 5 offensive formations we run. 5 or 6 offensive formations that we base out of. But then we can shift wherever we want. We can motion people wherever we want. We got into more of a pistol look the last couple of years just because of my I had a running back that didn't really have very good hands, could catch a little bit, but didn't really have great hands. So I moved him back to a pistol. Um, but then to keep that same concept of being able to go 4 wide or anything like that, I would shift him and move him around wherever we wanted, just to keep people honest and know that you can't go in a 4-man front and feel confident and comfortable against us. That's my biggest aspect is I want to try to dictate and control what the defense is going to line up against us as much as possible. And so if I can keep you guys, if I can kind of control you guys and keep you guys in a 3-man front, I think that's a win for us because then that's what we know how to prep and plan against. If you want to go in a 4-man front against us, by all means, go for it. We're going to find a way to make that hurt you in different ways. And so we are really heavy, but I also love to give the illusion that we can pass the ball whenever we want.
Are you guys mostly gap scheme style then, or do you guys do some zone stuff too?
So we are mainly gap scheme. I've started to dabble a little bit into the zone scheme. I love zone running. I think that's where I think that's where I'm headed. But right now, I kind of got an older offensive line coach who is very stuck in his ways of I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't want to learn something new. I've only got a couple more years left. If maybe this might be his last year. So I'm just like, okay, well, we're gonna call it ISO, but we're gonna block it like inside zone, and just kind of work it in like that. But we're mainly gap scheme.
With the pin and pull, I mean, do you guys do any buck sweep? I would say like in my 8-man time, you don't see it very often. I know there was a guy from Iowa at the Iowa clinic that said he was pulling as many guys as he could. I think he said I don't remember if you got to see that guy. I think it was Iowa Valley High School. But he said
That's
he pulled 5 players once
oh my gosh.
in an 8-man game because he said he wanted to. He said it didn't work at all, but he wanted to see how many he could pull, and then he ran a lot of dart, and I talked to some guys afterwards that said that he's always got some pretty fast kids. But anyways, you guys run any buck sweep and pull 2 guards or two
So
or two linemen?
my pin and pull stemmed from was we tried to run buck sweep when I first came down here, and it just didn't really. It ended up looking like power, honestly.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, man, this is just not hitting what I want. And so I'm just like, screw this. Let's, instead of worrying about kicking this guy up and under, just make that nice 90-degree cut. We're just gonna pin this guy down, and we're gonna have a sprint to the sideline. And so we're going to create a nice little, kind of like in the wing T system when you have that trap and you create that natural backside wall. I'm like, we're going to create that same concept to just pin everyone down, create a massive wall moving the opposite way, and we're going to sprint to the sideline. And so that's kind of where we don't really do, to answer your question, no, we don't really do buck sweep, but that's kind of where we started buck sweep, and that's kind of where it turned into our pin and pull for us.
Gotcha. Yeah. In 8-man, you don't see much of that, like pulling.
I just think I think you're a gap short.
Yeah.
And I think it hits too quick.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking off of you, like we ran some power read and ran power, and I just noticed that we just don't have a lot of size, big offensive linemen that can really move people up front anyway. So gap scheme wasn't always the best for us, I would say, and even still probably isn't. But like we ran some power, and it was always it never hit right. Our guards, we were too slow on it too, and we couldn't get a seal, and then our puller would end up like almost every time would end up blocking our read at the end because
Yeah.
it was like it just I threw that out in the trash can essentially. So we basically are almost predominantly zone, but we do run, trap or kick on some counter, but that's essentially the gist of our scheme. But anyway, would you talk through like if you wouldn't mind? I just love hearing terminology wise, formation, play call, and how a coach connects it and learning, different word and letter association terminology that different guys use. I know you talked about it at Glazier. I remember you had showed some of your formations and calls on there. I mean, that's been a couple of years ago now. So
Yeah.
if you wouldn't mind just talking through a play call and maybe how you call plays. Are you guys no huddle or do you huddle up or wristband?
Well, that depends on situation in the game and if I'm paying attention to what they're doing. I like to sugar huddle, but I've noticed, and sometimes my kids in a bigger moment or a bigger game, they'll all huddle up, and I'm okay with that. But I like to sugar huddle. I just want my quarterback, tight end, and lineman there, and I want my receivers to get and running backs to get to their spot and get their calls once they get the formation. So we go. I'll go formation, and then I'll do any tags if I need any shifts, movements, motions, anything like that, and then I'll go into the play call. So, for instance, for us in our system, we have a quarterback. Our running back is our T for tailback. Our slot receiver is our A for athlete. It's our kind of a guy that runs it and is in the slot receiver spot. And then, which is our, actually, I just changed it to a Z because it's easier for me to signal. And then our X and Y. And so if I just call a power running play and I can have anyone run it, I'll just say, so for instance, I would say cowboy would be a formation. I could say Z move, T power. And so that just tells Z we're moving you across the formation, and then we're running power with T. Or I could say Q power, and then it's the same exact play, except now the T knows he's got to go lead block. And that's something as a staple is like, if you don't get the ball, you're lead blocking for the quarterback. And so now it's the same exact play, but now the quarterback runs it. And so it looks like a different play, but it's the exact same play. I just tagged it, whoever gets it differently. So our play call terminology kind of goes formation, tags, who's running it, play. And so the linemen really just need to hear the last part of the sentence. And then I try to keep it to 5 to 6 words, no more than that. If I can't get it into 5 or 6, I either trash it or I say Briar special or something like that. And then they're all like, oh, we're doing this special play. But I try to pair up our power running game. I've kind of stuck with Superman, like Hulk, Thor. It's our power series. Thor goes right, Hulk goes left because Thor has an R, Hulk has an L, it goes left. Then outside running games, we're trying to get out to the sideline as fast as possible. We got dart, bolt like a lightning bolt. So that's kind of how I tag it of understanding power. We want to be strong and physical like Hulk and Thor. Bolt, lightning, dart, getting out there fast to the sideline.
That's awesome.
That's a small example of how we kind of run things.
Ours is like, I mean, really similar. It's an easy connection. I love that though, that you got that one word connection too of Thor and Hulk, Superman, or whatever for, easy translation to power. That's awesome.
Yeah.
For offensive must-haves, so like obviously we adjust our offense schematically as often as we can to fit our players and our athletes, and we move our athletes around to help us obviously too. But what are the must-haves? If you're running the offense, something that you're going to find a way to fit to your guys, at least, one or two things or whatever it is. What's the must-have in within your offense? What's one of them?
One of the must-haves we have in our offense is that we have to have a tight end or a wingback attached to one of the guards. That is a must have in my offense just because that allows us to be able to run our pin and pull scheme and really put pressure on that D end and run and on either side at any point in the play. So having a tight end or a wingback is attached to the guard on every single formation, every single play call is a must-have for us because I want to put pressure on that D end of, oh crap, I might get hooked here and give up my leverage, and they're off to the races.
And formationally, is that very hard to do to tag or put a tight end or a wing? I mean, for you in a play call?
To be creative, yes, because I feel like I'm always handcuffing myself at times because I'd love to be able to do. I want my ideal world is I want to be able to run pin and pull right or left every single play, every single formation.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I feel like I do that, I feel like I handcuff myself because then I'm like, oh my gosh, I've already got these two guys here. I'm stuck with moving two people around. And so that's kind of where I got into more of the shifting or like I can start in this formation of a trips look and I can have it outside receiver, slot receiver, and then have a tight end or a wing back. And then I can easily just move someone over if I need to, or I can have two slots or two tight ends on one side. I can just simply shift and move one over to get that look if I want to. So that's kind of where I've evolved. And at first I'm like, oh my gosh, this kind of stinks because this is like a base fundamental of what I do, but I feel like I'm handcuffing myself. But I've really kind of opened up my eyes and opened up the doors to our offense when I shift and move so much because we can start looking like something and we can just run a play, or we can shift and see what the defense is doing, and now we can adjust from there.
I 100% feel what you're saying about I felt like I was handcuffing myself too, not necessarily as a wing or nothing like that, but like expanding into more trips formations or overload formations because just in my base formation calls, like no other reason than I didn't know how to build it at first. Like I was like, how do I still make this easy and simple for the kids to understand quickly, but
Yep.
not change the system of rules of what the call means. And
Yep.
so like
Exactly.
I did the same thing, adding shifts and adding and then when I went to the adjuster system of a number for our F, which is like your athlete guy, your Z now, he can move everywhere. He can play, and I can put him as a wing, a tracer on any side or a slot receiver, or, a number one wideout receiver on that side, whatever. Yeah, so then doing that helped me a lot also. But yeah, it's really interesting to hear, like similar things. Would you talk about any shifts? Like how do you call a shift and what kind of shifts are you using?
So I just shift. My hand signal for shift is literally just like shifting like a car, like an old truck. And we practice. That's something we practice going into a game. Of like, okay, we know if we're in our cowboy formation, anytime I want to shift, it's an automatic. We're shifting to this formation, or we're shifting down, or we're shifting across. And so that's something that we practice all week. Like I think I had two formations that I'm like, okay, I really like how we can look in this formation, but then I really want to be able to shift quickly over here, and I want to see how if we can get an advantage. This was huge for us in the 2024 quarterfinal game. We had a big matchup against Lockwood. We always moved around a lot, but something we never did was we always spread it out on. We always were always way spread, and they were good at defending us because of their defense. But we never shifted down and to become more compact. And so I noticed on film, I watched on film once that one team shifted all of their players from a spread look, and they just condensed them down, and they didn't adjust at all. And I'm like, holy smokes, we can do that. And that opens up our running game inside way more. And so all week we worked on shifting. Hey, we're in this formation. When I yell and when I signal shift, we get lined up. We're all there, and then the quarterback will say our cadence, and we'll go shift, and then we'll all just move real quick, and then we'll run our play. And it kind of started from there. Actually, that might have been 23 that we did that, but that's kind of where it stemmed from. Was that aspect. And so then I just kind of grew it from there of, okay, we're not going to go two formations. Simple, guys. When we're in this trio look, when I say shift, we're all going to bunch down. If we're in cowboy look, we're going to shift across. And that's it, because I don't want to make it complicated on them at all. And sometimes it's just one person moves or two people move. Other times it's all four move. And it's just a week-to-week basis.
Well, I like that. See, I'll just give you some examples of my shifts too. And I go with one words also. So like if I wanted to tag a condensed formation and I didn't want us to shift, we would literally just say tight. So I would call Olaf 7 tight. And that just means the receivers are tightening down initially. But if I said Olaf 7 squeeze, that means quarterback somewhere after he's read the defense and looking at the defense in our cadence, he's going to yell squeeze, and then they squeeze down, and we're watching, we're watching the movement. If we wanted to spread, we would say spread, and that would be the signal for it. And then the only other ones we really have other than squeeze or spread is, well, we have flip, where we literally flip all skill guys to the other side.
Yeah.
We trade a tight end, and then like explode and scatter. Those were basically, let's say you're in a twins formation. So nub twins, twins left, nub tight end on the right side, and we would be a normal pistol. If we said explode, that meant that we're shifting into trips left. And that means the three nearest guys go. So the tight end would stay, and then the twins are already there. The running back would just shift into trips left. Or if we were in like a tracer or a wing set and we call it scatter, I'm trying to think of a formation, or let's just say we had a wing right, tight end left, and a receiver split wide right. And the back could even be offset left. It doesn't matter. But we said scatter. That means the nearest three eligible skill guys are going to shift out to trips right. And that's all we have was squeeze, spread, tight is or just a tag, explode, scatter, and flip.
I really like the squeeze, scatter, and tight. I think those are easy ways to get shifts and kind of make it simpler. As like, hey, if you want to do more exotic things or make it easy on them, I think that's a good way to do it.
The only problem with that, the old Mike Leach phrase, and you kind of said it earlier, like anything more than 5 words is way too long. And so what I do is I'll yell like Elmer 72 tight. I yell that. That's formation and motion and tag. And then I just signal the play. So it's like it's not really it's cheating in a way but if I really wanted to have 10 words, it would be all on wristband because that's too much. Like I want him to read it in the huddle and everybody knows. But anyway, what were you gonna say?
You're breaking it up. Like, okay, I'm gonna yell out this. You guys can get all set.
Yeah.
Now you can focus on this.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like that aspect, and that's kind of what I want to get to. Of like, hey, go get set up, sugar huddle, and then we're gonna call out the play.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what I've loved to do here, just in the 8-man game. Period. I mean, this is only going to be my 5th year going on my 5th year as a head coach and calling an offense, but like that was unheard of coming up in high school going through 8-man. Nobody ran any no huddle. Like the only time you'd ever see it was if the game was actually close, which 99% of the time it wasn't close. Kansas has a 45-point mercy rule. If you're up by 45 points or more at halftime, the game's over. And like my junior year when we went 13-0, won state, we won it my freshman year 13-0, lost in the state championship by 2 points my sophomore year, won at 13-0 my junior year, and then we got our butts kicked my senior year in the state championship because we had 8 seniors and half of them were hurt, including myself. But we but nobody was running no huddle. Like if you weren't 45ing somebody, then that would be the only chance. Like late in the game, and nobody ran
Yeah.
it just to run it to get an advantage ever. So like that's cool to see that it's still very uncommon. So we can take the advantage of it. So that's what I love about it. But anyway, I'm dragging on. I'm talking too much here, Coach.
Oh, you're good.
Let's do this. Let's go to these last few. Just talk about last year. Seniors you had, how the team did. Just talk about last year, and we'll transition that into next year. But last year first.
Last year, yeah, we finished 11-2. Um, we lost the very first game of the year on the last play of the game, and we lost by 2 points. It was fourth down. They were on the 4 yard line. We had them. Oh man, it was kind of painful to think about. We had them stopped. They ran a play action boot. Our linebacker was right there to make the play. The quarterback reversed field and just found the running back that he had just faked to on a broken play, wide open for just a dump touchdown pass. They went crazy. They doused their coach in the Gatorade bath. It was like they just won the state championship. And that kind of resonated with our kids, honestly. And so we come off we hadn't lost a game in 2 years up to that point. State champions, do back-to-back years. We had some really good players still, but we had lost a lot of really good players the year before, and so we had a lot of younger kids that were that were sophomores um, that had to step up big moments, and they looked like sophomores against that team because that team was senior heavy. Um, and we had beaten them the last few years in a quarterfinal round in some really good ball games, and so I knew this was going to be a really big game for us. But then we came after that loss. We had our biggest conference rival week 2 right after that, and they're always gunning for us, and they're a really good team. We ended up turbo clocking them, which that kind of surprised me, honestly. But just because of where we were and coming off that loss and seeing how we'd respond. But I would say we kind of surprised people with how good we were still, especially with how much talent we had lost the last few years and knowing that we were going to be younger. But then we won our districts. Coming back down, we had a quarterfinal game against the team we had just lost to. And we had just lost a few of our starters to injuries going into that game, and so that was a big game for us, and we ended up winning. We ended up winning by 4 against that in that game, and that was a big game for us because we were at Lockwood, um, and then I ended up losing another 2 starters that game going into the semifinal round. And that was a huge blow for us. We ended up losing a linebacker, a starting linebacker, and then 3 of our top D linemen going into the same semifinal game. We were like the walking wounded. Um, but going into that game, the semifinal game, we had a lot of experience going on our side. We were young players, and they were amped up and ready for the game. We gave ourselves a great shot, especially against a team that ended up winning it all. They were a run heavy team, double tight eye power team. We lost by 2. Um, on the last, and our quarterback threw an interception on the last play of the game to lose it. But there's just so many calls going into that game that I wish I could have back. So many things that I wish I could have done better to put us in better situations. And so I told all the boys that I lost us that game. They didn't. They played their tails off, and they played their butts off, and I screwed it for them by making some bad decisions and bad play calls. But they really showed a lot of growth and development throughout the season, and I was extremely proud of them. We graduated another 10 kids, and 4 or 5 of them were two-way starters. And so we're going to be going through a little bit the same thing of like we're going to be mixture of young and experience. So I'm excited for it.
In any, that's not true. I was gonna say at any level of high school, like if you lose a starter or two, like there's going to be a dramatic impact. I would say, and maybe that is true. There's going to be an impact, but not more than the 8-man game when you have 8 guys, and most often 8-man teams don't have 30 players on their team to choose from, let alone have another stud to plug in, like if you
Yeah.
lose a guy. So you losing 4 guys and, in a late season stretch, that's the worst time to lose. I mean, there's never a good time to lose a starter, but you would hope at least it's early in the year they have a chance to come back rather than
Right.
very end of the season. So,
I
um,
I lost two All-State players on my defensive line going into that semifinal round, and that I'm not saying we would have won, but they would have definitely have helped us in the running game against that team because that team was very good at running the ball. And I mean, we were just bandaged together, putting people in there that had never played D line, that were just going to be the next ones up, ready to go. And so they did a great job of learning it in a week, but I'm just proud of how they played that game.
yeah. So, I mean, they obviously responded, stepped up, and that's that buy-in in the weight room probably that you already been talking about. They're ready.
Things and not everything's fair in life. So yeah.
Yeah. We'll take that into the next one here, overcoming that adversity and then, that experience, how that might help you this year. So then let's just do that. Let's talk about next year. Who are these core guys coming back and basically what's your outlook? How's the team looking?
Well, we'll see. I'm going from having the best player on the field the last 3 years to not having the best player on the field, and not having my best athlete play quarterback. So that's going to be a real challenge for us offensively, and just my whole thought process of how we want to run our offense. But we've got, and we're losing a lot of overall speed. There's going to be some games where we are not the most athletic team on the field. But what we are is we're going to have, this will be the first year in probably 4 years, 5 years now, that we are going to be physically dominant up front. As we're going to be huge, we're going to be physical, and we're going to be tough up front. And so we're going to be relying more on our offensive defensive line over our skill guys. And so I'm excited because I think I have some. I think I have some talented running backs that are not as well known because they've been overshadowed by some really, really, really good players in front of them. And so I think they're going to surprise some people with their talent. And I think we're still going to be a really good team this year. I just get excited because I want to put them in the best situation possible, and I want to make sure I do that early. And so I put a lot of pressure on myself to do that, but I'm also excited just to get out there and kind of see what we can do.
Every season, every team is completely different. People don't necessarily
Yeah.
always realize or look at it that way, even though that's the reality. Um, and it's fun to see how kids are going to respond and step up. And you already, like you said, you already had some step up way sooner than you necessarily would have liked them to last year. So that'll be exciting to see how they develop from there. So, what's the next biggest focus for this group before that team does take the field?
So athletically wise, I went from having a guy that legitimately ran a 4.55 40. He went to combines and got laser tested, and he's fast. To having a guy that runs a 4.7. So it's not like we're falling off a cliff. It's just there's a difference between 4.55 and 4.7 on a football field, and so we're still going to be gifted, but not really, really gifted. But um, I think where we need to most improve and is complacency of just not is just not expecting things to be easy. Because some of these kids are used to coming in when the game's up already out of hand and it's JV time, mop up duty. Um, and just because we've been good the last 4 or 5 years doesn't mean we're going to be good this year. And so it still takes that hard work. It still takes that dedication. You got to remember now you're the guy up to lead this team, and you don't have the leaders of the past of to bring you along with us. It's on you now. And so I think we're gonna fight that a little bit, and we're gonna have to have some people step up and be leaders who are maybe not used to being in that leadership role.
And that's where that leadership class and growth and discussion there, even just starting in the offseason, that I'll be interested to hear how that goes for you too, Coach.
This is kind of why I'm excited because I love to see them grow and love to see them develop and mature. And so I'm excited to see if they take on that challenge.
Moving into the last question here. Any advice, future coaches, current coaches out there, biggest piece of advice, what would you say?
Be you. Be authentic to who you are. Don't. I mean, we're blessed with all this technology of seeing like snippets of what coaches are like, of what Nick Saban or anyone else that's big name of how they are, maybe how tough they are, whatever. Be who you want to be. You don't have to be the next Nick Saban. You don't have to be the next Bill Belichick or Sean McVay or whoever. Be who you want to be, and just take that where you want to be and where you want to take your program, where you want it to look like, and buy into that. Like I talked about, my one of my favorite quotes was, "A champion is simply someone who did not give up when he wanted to." It's not going to be easy, and if you want it the way you want it to be, you've got to buy in. And even when times get rough, and even when you're not for sure where the next move is, remember who you are as a person, remember what you want your program to be cemented in, and build from there and just be true to who you are.
I feel like as an assistant coach, I was the opposite of that. I was trying to be my head coach from high school and the head coach that I was under. And I've night and day been better when not trying to do that, you know? So, and it's better for the kids too. You know, the kids.
Oh yeah. I went through that too whenever I was an assistant coach. Of I thought I had to be this macho man guy that was like rough and tough and set the bar high and everything like that. And when it comes down to it, yeah, I want to set the bar high, but I'm not a macho tough like eat nails and whatever. That's just not who I am. And I'm okay with that. I would say early on I wasn't, and I try to be the football coach guy as the assistant coach. But when I finally developed that, like you're talking about, night and day difference for me. So
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been more of, you know, I don't, and I don't even know if this is the right way to say it, but more of a player's coach than my high school coach. My high school coach was like, you know, the most hard ass type in your face, did not care about your feelings in any way ever. And he's going to tell you exactly what, you know, what's coming through his mind. Doesn't even matter. There's no filter, you know. I'm not against that in any way. I just know that I wasn't always that. I've always been a little more reserved than that, I guess. And so I knew like, well, I'm going to find a way to coach that fits me. And that's not me, you know, that's just the way it is. So, but
I exactly, I think the same thing of like I'm gonna say what's on my mind, and but I don't curse. Like I don't curse when I talk. I don't curse when I coach. Kids make fun of me, but they know that I'm not going to curse,
Mhm.
and so I can get my point across without cursing. And I'm not a big yeller. If they yell, they know it's for a meaning. When I first started coaching, I thought I had to yell everything. I thought I had to get on to everyone for everything, but that's not coaching. Coaching is sometimes having grace with kids, having those private conversations, knowing when to build them up and when to tear them down a little bit. And so it's a fine line with that, and that's something I've learned and developed and grew as a coach.
just because you're yelling doesn't mean that you're a great, you know, it doesn't make you a great coach. I think I mistook that early on too for the same thing. Like, no, you can have a relationship with kids and be more impactful without yelling. I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's been getting closer to 2 hours now, but definitely appreciate you taking the time.
Crazy. It's no flu. I loved it. Some good conversation.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the 8-Man Breakdowns podcast. If you ever have a question for me, feel free to comment below on this video or follow and message me on Twitter at 8-Man Breakdowns. If you've learned anything or enjoyed the video, please click subscribe and check out some of my other videos right here. And as always, guys, thanks for tuning in.